Welcome to the Moviegoers Society podcast, brought to you by Nerdtropolis. I'm your host, Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and joining me once again is my co-host, Drew Munhausen, the professional media and movie mastermind, who can't get enough of award season. He is ready for the next one and the biggest one. Oh, there's more coming, but you're ready for more awards, aren't you?
It is my Christmas Eve. We at the time of this recording, it's Monday, and tomorrow morning the Oscar nominations will be announced officially. We'll get to see who's finally in the race for Best Picture and Best Actor and Best Actress and all those top awards. So I have to admit, I get a little bit excited, and it's relevant to the conversation of the main film we'll be talking about today, because I do expect it will have a few Oscar nominations. So not to get ahead of myself here, but yeah, I'm really excited. So I wanted to showcase the little gold statuette behind me.
Yeah, we need one of those. We need and I need one in my background over here. I need to find one at some store on Amazon and just have a fake one behind me. But in this podcast, we dive into a world of cinema, exploring everything from beloved classics to the latest blockbusters. We're now on episode 27, and we put a spotlight on the Nerdtropolis comedy of the year, American Fiction. But before we get into all of that, we want to make sure you can connect with us online. You can find me on every single social media platform at Sean Taj. I've been posting a lot of cool stuff, Drew, lately. I just shared a bunch more photos from the Critics' Choice Awards, a lot of pictures of my mom with some fun celebrities. Did you have a favorite for some of the photos I posted so far?
I do have a favorite, because the fact that she's in a photo with Robert De Niro and he gave a little smile. He smiled a little bit. He didn't have his typical kind of frown or, anything. He gave a smile for your mom. I was very happy for her.
He is a frowner. Every time you see me, he's frowning, which is fine. I mean, he is at a high age now, high energy. But I love a lot of the photos. If you go on nerdtropolis.com and you actually go to the Critics' Choice article, I have some pictures embedded, but if you go on my Instagram, a lot of them on there. But I love the one with Tom Hiddleston at the end. That was like one of our highlights. That was really cool. But everyone that we met there was like awesome, like super sweet and great. I like her selfie she took with Will Ferrell. She ran off somewhere, and
that was a good one too. She did that on her own.
Yeah, she did a couple of them on her own. I was just hanging out at the table, and I was like, if you want to go see if what you see, go for it. It was our first time attending. And she said she went up to Will Ferrell and had her phone and, was talking to him. And she's like, can we take a selfie? But I don't know how to take one. And he's like, I don't know either. We'll figure it out. So that was a little funny comment that he made to her. But everyone was a joy to her. And I'm glad I could take my mom to the Critics' Choice Awards and give her, a really great time. Even like when we were leaving, we ran into a lot of people. Like even Jennifer Aniston, we said hello to, and she like thought she recognized my mom for some reason and like stopped and said hello and stuff like that as they were walking away. But a lot of fun there. So follow at Sean Taj on every social media platform. You can follow at Nerdtropolis for stuff we're posting on there too. Like I said, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. Don't forget to visit nerdtropolis.com for your daily dose of movie news, reviews, interviews, and trailers. Especially that YouTube channel. It is growing. We're trying to push that out. So if you can just go search Nerdtropolis, subscribe, to this video, leave a comment, like. We're trying to grow this really hard, doing the Moviegoers Site podcast and my personal podcast where I interview actors and directors. And Drew, where can they find you where you're not contributing to Nerdtropolis?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media platforms, weekly over at Fresh Out the Podcast, and in front of my computer screen early to catch all the Oscar nominees as they're announced live.
Are you going to be like doing some live tweeting? What are you going to be doing when this is going on? Because I got to also post some stuff about it. Maybe we got to team up and do some live tweets or something like that and see what kind of was part of the Nerdtropolis Awards and what carried over. Would be really cool to see about that stuff as well.
Maybe I'll post over in the Moviegoers Society Facebook page. I feel like that's a better place. I'm not the biggest tweeter. I guess they're not even called tweets anymore or an X, but I just feel like it gets lost in the shuffle there. But maybe if you're part of the Nerdtropolis Moviegoers Society Facebook page, I'll post some thoughts in there once they're live, because I assume there's going to be a couple snubs. There's usually at least one big surprise of somebody who gets in or somebody who didn't make it in that we all thought would. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be an exciting day tomorrow. And we keep mentioning, check out previous episodes of the Moviegoers Society and the previous interviews I posted up as well. But let's dive into this film that I'm sure many people have not seen or even heard of, but it is the Nerdtropolis Comedy of the Year. It is called American Fiction, which marks Cord Jefferson's directorial debut, who I got to meet. We're going back to Critics' Choice because it all intertwines. It's crazy because I felt like for me, the Critics' Choice was a lot of American fiction involvement because as I was standing in line, behind me was Jeffrey Wright in line to get in, which was really awesome. And then behind me, I was like, oh, I know this guy. Who is it? And it ends up being John Ortiz, who plays like the agent in American Fiction. And then later on, one of the pictures I posted, my mom took a selfie at Tracy Ellis Ross. And then I also want to talk to Cord Jefferson and congratulate him on all his success, the film. I think he won Best Original Adapted Screenplay at the Critics' Choice. And obviously, I told him about the Comedy of the Year for Nerdtropolis and gave him an awesome Nerdtropolis pin that we give out to, the top of the top in the Nerdtropolis world. So I guess it was time that we talk about this film, American Fiction. I'm going to let Drew start off with his thoughts on this film before I jump in.
So yeah, I'm excited we're getting to talk about this one for multiple reasons. A, because it's really good. And B, because it is getting the rollout in theaters around. It's still kind of limited, but there were a few theaters showing it in Houston, so I was glad I was able to catch it. And also because there's just the theater is kind of a wasteland right now. There's some, holiday holdovers that are still in theaters, but as far as new releases go, like Sean, had you even heard of the movie ISS? That was the new release that was playing in my local theater, and it didn't even break the top 5 on Box Office Mojo, or for the box office over the weekend. And I don't think I've even seen a trailer for it.
I think I got an email for it, but I didn't know what it was. The email wasn't very appetizing. I think they're offering some interviews or some screenings, and I was like, I don't know what this is. But then I should have looked better because it has a decent cast. I think Ariana DeBose is in it.
She is, and I know very little else about it.
That's all I know. But yeah, there's not much going on right now, but American Fiction is rolling out in theaters.
Yeah, so it's really the only news going on in the movie world right now is either if you're in Park City, Utah, because Sundance is currently going on right now, so movies are getting purchased and things coming out of there, and then with the awards race coming up. So this is what better time than now to really talk about American Fiction, which it's funny you said that Jeffrey Wright was near you at the Critics' Choice Awards, and I'm sure if you hear that voice, you can't mistake it. And I've always been a big fan of Jeffrey Wright, and this is far and away the best performance I've seen from him, and from somebody who I already thought was a very great actor and talented. And I remember when he got cast as Commissioner Gordon in The Batman. I was really excited for that because it was different. He's so perfect for it. And this is just a great spotlight for him as an actor. And I am expecting we could potentially hear his name tomorrow when the Oscar nominations are announced. But yeah, no, American Fiction's great. It kind of tackles some interesting cultural topics, but in a great comedic way that gets its point across, but it's also still fun. Even though it deals with a lot of heavy topics, there are some emotional punches that really hit for me, but it does not forget to infuse the comedy throughout. And I just had a great time with this. And I'm glad that it got recognized in the Nerdtropolis Awards because it's very deserving. I had a great time with this one.
Yeah, it's a movie I didn't know what to expect. The trailers didn't get me. The images I saw, I said, what is this film? And it's adapted it's based on a book that is available out there. I think it's called Eraser or something like that. I think it's based on a book, but it does tackle some really serious topics in this world. A lot of cultural stereotyping, but it does it with a clever touch. It's like a black comedy. There's some really serious issues in it, some sad situations, but there's a lot of scenes that are really cleverly written, are funny, and does a great way of bringing such a serious issue to light and not really take it as seriously with some of the jokes and the way they perform. Jeffrey Wright as this character named Monk. I thought that's an interesting, name to use as a Monk because I always think about the TV show with Tony Shalhoub, and so he plays this character that's just frustrated, has a lot of wit and determination. The cast is really good, and I can't believe this is Cord Jefferson's first time directing a film. Like this is really amazing and it's such a great cast. So I have to praise Cord Jefferson for his directorial debut. A fresh air in this film industry, I thought so. And this film like emphasizes on the exploitation of Black entertainment, and it does it in such a smart way. So I really highly recommend this movie. But regardless of what type of comedy you like, I think all types of people really enjoy this movie. It's not really directed to one type of audience. And like I said, you have Tracy Ellis Ross, John Ortiz, and so much more. I mean, Sterling K. Brown's in it, and he's really good. I think he's going to get some nods maybe tomorrow, possibly. And
he got recognized with the nomination for the SAG Awards, so it could happen. That's a big deal. He's really great in this too.
Yeah, really good in this, and he's like a chameleon. He can act in anything, and he can play any type of character. But there's so much satire in this film, which I love. It's such a unique film, and for a comedy, especially last year, some of the comedies were just like straightforward. This is not as straightforward as a comedy as you would think. And that's why I'm glad that we could have recognized it. And I really hope tomorrow it gets a handful of nods from the cast to the director and a little bit like that. Do you have like a favorite part of the film or
well, I guess like to start off, for those who don't know, the movie's about, so Jeffrey Wright plays a character named Thelonious Ellison, but he goes by Monk. Everybody calls him Monk, and he's a writer. And like you get the impression he's very smart and a very great writer, but his books just don't sell very well. And so when there's a book that is essentially a bestseller by Issa Rae's character, she's the writer of this book that's called Weeze Lives in the Ghetto, he gets really upset that it's this huge bestseller because he feels like it's just pandering to Black stereotypes. So almost as like a riff on that, he kind of as a joke writes a book in the same light. And of course, that's the book that all the publishers do want to pick up and and sell. And he gets very upset that this like joke of a novel he wrote is selling so well and getting high praise, and it goes from there. So it's a very fun concept, and it deals with these kinds of stereotypes, but Jeffrey Wright just plays like this very conflicted writer, and he's really just so great in it. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough how great his performance is, and just how at odds with himself and with this novel he is in the story. It's great. Sterling K. Brown plays his brother who's recently divorced and now living his single life, and there's some really interesting thematic elements there with their relationship and as it relates back to their father. And so like it deals with deep family issues while also having this fascinating story about the novel that Monk's character wrote in the movie.
And he writes it as he writes it as someone else, pretty much as a convicted felon that has fled, which I thought was kind of hilarious that no one's questioning. It's like, oh, he's on the run, why don't we report him? But it's just fun to see him play kind of two characters trying to sell this book, but they really don't want to sell it. But all the white publishers love it, and they want to give him all this money, and then they want to meet with him, and so he has to put on this front as acting like he's a convict, and it's just really funny when that all plays out as they're trying to get this book out. And
he even tries to change the name of the book and do things with the intent of the publishers not wanting to proceed with it, and instead it just makes them want to run with it even more, and they keep agreeing to his strange claims and demands, and it just perplexes him even more. And it's such a fun ride for the character. It's worth noting, you mentioned Tracy Ellis Ross and seeing her at the Critics' Choice Awards. She's somebody that I really wasn't too familiar with before this year, and then we just a few weeks ago talked about Candy Cane Lane, the holiday movie on Amazon Prime Video, and she was really notable in that, I feel like, as the wife, and then she's in this, and I thought she was really great as well. I won't spoil too much about her character, and she plays Monk's sister, and what happens there, but she's I don't know, she just made a very memorable impression on me this year, so I look forward to seeing more from Tracy Ellis Ross in the future. I haven't watched the shows that she is a part
Blackish,
of, like Blackish. I've
yeah.
never seen it, and some of these other shows I'm looking at her filmography, and I need to maybe catch up on some of those just because I really enjoy watching her.
Yeah, she's super talented, and even in person, she's awesome. She's super funny, and she has a lot of range. And I want to see more of her. I mean, she's very young doing this, and she's been around a long time, and she's part of like Hollywood royalty, pretty much, with her mom being Diana Ross. But yeah, she's really great in this. I just like every scene that Jeffrey Wright tries to pretend to be this convict to really not sell the book. And when they're in the office with his manager, his agent, John Ortiz, when they're on that phone call, I'm not trying to spoil it too much, but like when they're on the phone call and they're having kind of the battle about how to proceed, and he's like, you got to act a certain way so they believe it, and so he has to kind of change up the way he acts on the phone. And it's just, the interactions are just hilarious when they're trying to get this book off the ground or trying to put it back to not let it take off, but it's taking off regardless if he likes it or not. But I really hope this does really well. Would you go back to it? What was your, like, one of your favorite scenes or parts of the film?
So I was going to say, can we talk about Adam Brody for a second here? Because he's in this, and he plays a film producer that's wanting to adapt Monk's book that he wrote, into a film. And he's just this great, he plays this great kind of slimy, stereotypical film producer who, thinks he's like up on the times and the lingo and really isn't, and, kind of is showing his ass the whole time. And I really enjoyed his performance. And I think he was a big highlight. And just Adam Brody in general, his career over the past few years, like he's he's in the Shazam movies recently, and he's in like Promising Young Woman a couple years ago. And I just, anytime he's been showing up in movies in recent years, I think he's really notable, especially coming from a TV star. Like, I still kind of associate Adam Brody with the OC. I don't know if you were an OC fan.
So do I.
Sean.
I was a big fan of the OC, and that's really all I can think of when I see Adam Brody. It's hard to kind of disconnect him from that.
And I wasn't even an OC watcher, but I have so many friends that are obsessed with that movie or with that show that like it is just embedded into their like pop culture knowledge. And so like even through them, that's what I associate Adam Brody with. So when he shows up in things now, I just think he's so great. And Ready or Not, that was another one he was in a couple years ago. Yeah, he's very funny when he pops up in this. It's just, this is one of those movies that not only is there a great central performance by Jeffrey Wright, but the supporting cast is so strong. And even with Jeffrey Wright holding the movie together, it doesn't work without the supporting cast. It's really impressive.
Yeah, even though when he's not on screen, you still want to watch it. There's a lot of movies where I watch where like, just give me the main characters and stuff, but all the supporting cast, I mean, they contribute so much and such great names into it. And like, this film does leave a lasting impression. I love the ending of the film. I'm not going to say anything about the ending, but I thought the ending was really brilliant too. And I love that. But a great, directorial debut of Court Jefferson, stellar performances by everybody. It's a hidden gem, guys. It really is. How many screenings did you find in your theater? Like, how often were they showing it?
I mean, only like on one screen. So, you'd get like 4 screenings a day. So it was pretty tight, but I was glad I was able to catch it. I think to your point, talking about the ending, of course, won't spoil anything, but all I'll say is kind of big picture in general, as far as endings go. I don't know if you've seen Saltburn, Sean. It's not a movie I really want to dive into right now, but just
I did not see that.
The ending of that movie is they don't really leave anything ambiguous or left to the imagination at all. Like, it pretty much spells it out for you against the movie's better judgment, which I didn't really like that much about it. And I like that American Fiction kind of, it wraps up the movie really well while still kind of leaving some ambiguity to it. And I enjoyed that about it. So I'll just say that much. I think that it's a very smart ending.
Yeah, it is very smart. It's a very smart movie, but like, and I'm not a fan of like things that make you think too much, but this is like right in the middle of smartness. You can get it, you can follow it. It all makes sense. It's all great. It's funny. It's clever, great acting. And it's really a shame that you said like there's only like 4 showings throughout the day for this film. And hopefully it gets a really good, like a digital run at some point.
It's an Amazon MGM film, so I would imagine they'll put it on Prime Video at some point, hopefully before the Oscars, so that people can see it before the actual Oscar ceremony, especially if they get the nominations they're hoping to get. Because yeah, right now, at least on Wikipedia, it's only grossed $8 million is what it's saying. But man, it's really great, and for a movie that it has a lot of satire in it, it's always very impressive when that much satire is also grounded in so much realism, or there's still emotional stakes despite the satire. Like, it's really well done. So great showing from a directorial debut by Cord Jefferson. He's definitely going to be a name that's on the list now to look out for future films from him. It'll be a priority to see.
Yeah, it's yeah, I want to see more from him for sure, and I'm really hoping that once again, like, they get some good nominations tomorrow. And what, you got any surprises in mind? What's going to happen tomorrow? Anything you want to?
Man, I think that the main thing right now is for Best Picture. There's a few movies that could be that are considered locks. You got Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Poor Things, The Holdovers, Barbie. I think even American Fiction, I would say, are all locks. It's when you get into those last 4 spots, there could be some shifting around, because you could have, you got Maestro, Past Lives, Anatomy of the Fall, The Zone of Interest, Color Purple, and then even like Air and All of Us Strangers and May, December. Some of these are like all kind of in the conversation. It's just really a matter of which ones get in and which ones left on the cutting room floor. So it's going to be interesting. Best Actor, we've had some surprises. Like, it really seemed like Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy and Leo and Bradley Cooper were all kind of locks, but then Leo didn't get into the SAG nominations, which was a huge shock. So you never know. There's always some sort of surprise. Last year was the crazy Andrea Riseborough nomination for Best Actress. That was really strange. So I like there to be at least some drama that everybody's freaking out about. So we'll see.
Yeah, there'll be some drama. And I wonder, like, Killers of the Flower Moon, I wonder if, like, it's not getting, I wouldn't call it getting snubbed, but maybe it's not being considered as much because it's an Apple TV film, maybe. And it didn't get like a proper, I feel like if that movie went straight to theaters and didn't do this limited stuff and like really had a strong showing as a Martin Scorsese film, it would have just like knocked out a bunch of stuff.
I think also the fact that, Marty has his Oscar and Leo has an Oscar and all these things. And it's like almost like it just kind of gets shelved. Like, everybody's like, oh, we're giving it the nominations enough because we recognize that this is another great film from Scorsese and in this cast and everything. Lily Gladstone is probably the one that is really has the most steam behind her and could not only get nominated but potentially win Best Actress this year. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, it's like you kind of get this predetermined outcome where it just seems like it's the Oppenheimer year and Christopher Nolan will finally get recognized because he hasn't won an Oscar yet for directing. And so it really seems like that's where it's going. But there could be, again, there's always room for surprises. Anytime you get set on something and you think for sure it's going to happen, crazier things have happened. So we'll see.
Will Godzilla -1 get nominated for anything?
I would celebrate it so much. I think the chances are like 1,000,000 to 1, but if it happened, I would be celebrating it like none other.
Did you see the re-release we posted on Nerdtropolis, the special black and white version, Godzilla minus color?
I knew they were going to be doing that. I might check it out. We'll see.
That's a pretty cool concept. It's really interesting, especially being a period piece. I mean, it makes the most sense to do that. And then did you see the Richard Simmons little biopic short starring Pauly Shore?
I watched the trailer for it. I haven't seen the actual short film that I think is available now. How was it? Did you watch it?
I watched it. It's not what I expected.
Okay.
I love Pauly. But apparently they put something together, but apparently they're working on a full feature film though. That's gonna be like serious with Pauly to do this. So I'm not sure what they're doing. Maybe testing the waters, putting some type of sample together. It was a clever little short film. It's only 10 minutes long. And it's hard to kind of see past Pauly. I think that's really where I have a problem with it. It's really hard to see past him, but we'll see what happens. That Sundance happening, kind of behind on that just because it's been crazy last couple of weeks.
I've been following it a little bit. Like I know Jesse Eisenberg had a movie that sold, and I saw that there's a Christopher Reeve documentary that is getting some critical acclaim. So it sounds like there's some fun things coming out of it. It could be a big Sundance year, especially with the strikes and how it's going to impact the theatrical landscape this year, it's like the future of this year is looking a little bleak as far as the big releases go. So we'll see what happens coming out of Sundance.
Yeah, and then speaking of Sundance, today marks the 30th anniversary of Clerks, which made its debut at the Sundance Festival. So Kevin Smith's first film did really great and started his career that's still going strong and providing a lot of Jay and Silent Bob to this day. I think he said he's working on more stuff featuring those two. But yeah, it could be 30 years of Clerks. I tried rewatching the other day. It's not my favorite film, but I do enjoy what it is. It's really cleverly written, and it's very different than what's out there.
I love Clerks. Yeah, it wasn't the first. Actually, I think the first Kevin Smith movie I saw may have been Mallrats. I think was the first one I actually watched, and then went back to Clerks back in the day. But I love Clerks. There's still some iconic conversations from that movie that I will still quote with friends on occasion.
Yeah, a lot of quoting in that one, and a good cast. I like everyone that's in these movies. It's really awesome. I do want to share, another kind of cool piece of news on Nerdtropolis is that Michael Jackson biopic by Antoine Fuqua, who is directing this film, which I think that's amazing. Training Day and Equalizer director, and who's starring as the King of Pop is Michael Jackson's nephew himself, which is really obviously clever. One, obviously the family is behind this. So that's beginning to film right now, actually starting to film today. And so that's super exciting. And I saw a couple pictures just behind the scenes of his nephew practicing, and like he's nailing the look and the dances and everything like that. What do you think about that?
I think it'll be interesting to see. I think that Michael Jackson leaves an interesting legacy, and it depends on where the movie decides to go with that. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
I mean, you got that type of director behind it. It's got to be just, I feel like hopefully it's on that level of Elvis, hopefully somewhere close to that. And, I think they're also putting a spotlight on his childhood as well, because they casted a couple young actors for the childhood of Michael Jackson. But
do you think we're going to get some Jackson 5 action?
Oh, that'll be fun. I think it has to be some Jackson 5 leading up to it. So it's just interesting to see what's filming this year. And there's a lot of great films coming out this year. And as they do, we're going to be talking about it. So if you haven't yet, check out previous episodes of the Moviegoers Society. Check out my podcast, Nerdtropolis Mayor Presents. And Drew, I told you about this. I'll say it out loud. Probably gonna find a new name for my interviews or something, my podcast interviews, having some type of creative fun with it, maybe. So maybe a new change to my interview podcast name. So stay tuned for that. But that's where I interview directors and actors, all on the Nerdtropolis Podcast Network. And once again, Drew, where can they find you?
You can find me at Drew Munhausen on all the different social media feeds, and weekly over at Fresh Out the Podcast as well.
Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Moviegoer Society. Once again, I'm Sean Tajipour, the mayor of Nerdtropolis, and we'll see you at the movies.